Promised Land by Mary Antin. My country. How long would you say, wise reader, it takes to make an American? By the middle of my second year in school, I had reached the 6th grade, when after the Christmas holidays we began to study the life of Washington, running through a summary of the Revolution and the early days of the Republic. It seemed to me that all my reading and study had been idle until then. The reader, the arithmetic, the songbook, that had so fascinated me until now, became suddenly sober exercise books, tools wherewith to hew away to the source of inspiration. When the teacher read to us out of a big book with many bookmarks in it, I sat rigid with attention in my little chair, my hands tightly clasped on the edge of my desk, and I painfully held my breath to prevent sighs of disappointment escaping as I saw the teacher skip the parts between bookmarks. When the class read and it came my turn, my voice shook and the book trembled in my hands. I could not pronounce the name of George Washington without a pause. Never had I prayed, never had I chanted the songs of David, never had I called upon the Most Holy in such utter reverence and worship as I repeated the simple sentences of my child's story of the Patriot. I gazed with adoration at the portraits of George and Martha Washington till I could see them with my eyes shut, and whereas formerly my self-consciousness had bordered on conceit, and I thought myself an uncommon person, parading my school books through the streets and swelling with pride when a teacher detained me in conversation, now I grew humble all at once, seeing how insignificant I was beside the great. I had never been ashamed of my family, but this George Washington, who died long before I was born, was like a king in greatness, and he and I were fellow citizens. There was a great deal about fellow citizens in the patriotic literature we read at this time, and I knew from my father how he was a citizen through the process of naturalization, and how I also was a citizen by virtue of my relation to him. Undoubtedly, I was a fellow citizen, and George Washington was another. It thrilled me to realize what sudden greatness had fallen on me, and at the same time it sobered me, as with a sense of responsibility. I strove to conduct myself as befitted a fellow citizen. Before books came into my life, I was given to stargazing and daydreaming. When books were given me, I fell upon them as a glutton pounces on his meat after a period of enforced starvation. I lived with my nose in a book, and took no notice of the alternations of the sun and stars. But now, after the advent of George Washington and the American Revolution, I began to dream again. I strayed on the common after school instead of hurrying home to read. I hung on fence rails, my pet book forgotten under my arm, and gazed off to the yellow-streaked February sunset, and beyond, and beyond. I was no longer the central figure of my dreams. The dry weeds in the lane crackled beneath the tread of heroes. What more could America give a child? Ah, much more. As I read how the patriots planned the Revolution, and the women gave their sons to die in battle, and the heroes led to victory, and the rejoicing people set up the Republic, it dawned on me, gradually, what was meant by my country. The people all desiring noble things and striving for them together, defying their oppressors, giving their lives for each other. All this it was that made my country. It was not a thing that I understood. I could not go home and tell Frida about it, as I told her other things I learned at school. But I knew one could say my country and feel it, as one felt God or myself. My teacher, my schoolmates, Miss Dillingham, George Washington himself could not mean more than I when they said my country, after I had once felt it. For the country was for all the citizens, and I was a citizen. And when we stood up to sing America, I shouted the words with all my might. I was in very earnest, proclaiming to the world my love for my new-found country.